Welcome to Module ACC WR 3.4, titled Syntax. As you move through your route today, imagine that the sentences you are editing are not just strings of words, but physical structures that must be balanced, reinforced, and connected. Syntax is the study of how words are arranged to form phrases, clauses, and sentences, while grammar deals with the specific rules of words, like verb tense or pluralization. Syntax deals with the architecture of the entire statement. On the Accuplacer, you are being tested on your ability to create variety, maintain logical flow, and ensure that every sentence is structurally sound. To achieve a top-tier score, you must move beyond basic subject-verb-object construction and master the art of sophisticated sentence manipulation. The first and most critical concept in syntax is sentence combining. This is perhaps the most frequent task you will perform on the writing section. The test will present you with 2 or 3 short, choppy sentences and ask you for the most effective way to combine them. A choppy style is a sign of immature writing. A sophisticated style uses coordination and subordination to show how ideas relate to one another. Listen to this example for your audio training. Sentence 1, the research team conducted the experiment. Sentence 2, the team discovered a new compound. Sentence 3, the compound could treat chronic pain. A weak, low-score combination would be, the research team conducted the experiment and they discovered a new compound and it could treat chronic pain. This is what we call excessive coordination. It uses the word "and" like a crutch. It doesn't tell the reader which idea is the most important. A top-tier high-score combination uses subordination and appositives. While conducting the experiment, the research team discovered a new compound capable of treating chronic pain. Notice what happened here. By starting the sentence with, "while conducting the experiment," you have subordinated the action of the experiment to the actual discovery. You have created a hierarchy of information. You also use the phrase, "capable of treating chronic pain," as a modifier for the compound. This is syntactical efficiency. On the test, always look for the answer choice that eliminates repeated subjects and uses linking words like which, who, although, or because to show the logical relationship between the clauses. The second pillar of syntax is parallelism, often called parallel structure. This is the rule of balance. In a list or a comparison, all parts must have the same grammatical form. The Accuplacer loves to test this because it sounds almost right when spoken, but it is structurally broken. Imagine a sentence describing a successful candidate. The candidate was intelligent, hardworking, and she had a lot of experience. Did you hear the trip up? The first 2 items are adjectives, intelligent and hardworking. The third item is a whole clause, she had a lot of experience. This is a violation of parallel structure. It's like a 3-legged stool where one leg is made of a different material. The syntactically correct version is, the candidate was intelligent, hardworking, and experienced. Now, all 3 items are simple adjectives. Parallelism also applies to correlative conjunctions, pairs of words that must work together, such as either or, neither nor, not only but also, and both and. Listen to this error. The new law not only affects urban areas, but also it impacts rural communities. The correct version is, the new law affects not only urban areas, but also rural communities. The words following not only urban areas must match the form of the words following, but also rural communities. On the test, if you see a list or a not only but also structure, your first move is to check for this balance. Any choice that breaks the rhythm is a syntax error. The third pillar is modifier placement. A modifier is a word or phrase that describes something else in the sentence. For a sentence to be syntactically clear, the modifier must be placed as close as possible to the thing it is describing. If it is placed incorrectly, it is called a misplaced modifier or a dangling modifier. Consider this classic Accuplacer trap. Walking down the street, the skyscrapers seem to lean over the sidewalk. Think about the logic of that sentence. Who is walking down the street? As written, the sentence says the skyscrapers are walking down the street. This is a dangling modifier because the actual person doing the walking is missing from the sentence. The syntactically correct revision is, as I was walking down the street, the skyscrapers seemed to lean over the sidewalk. Another version, walking down the street, I noticed the skyscrapers leaning over the sidewalk. When you see a sentence that starts with an ing word like running, working, or havey, ng finished, you must immediately check if the very next noun is the person or thing actually doing that action. If not, it's a trap. The fourth pillar is sentence variety and rhythm. A passage where every sentence is 10 words long and follows the same structure is boring and monotonous. To get a top score, you must be able to recognize when a passage needs syntactic variation. This involves using different types of sentences: simple, compound, and complex. A simple sentence has one independent clause: the project failed. A compound sentence joins two independent clauses with a conjunction: the project failed, but the team learned a valuable lesson. A complex sentence joins an independent clause with a dependent clause: although the project failed, the team learned a valuable lesson. On the test, you will see a question that asks, which of the following would best improve the flow of the paragraph? Look for the choice that breaks up a string of short sentences. For example, if you have 4 short sentences in a row, the best revision will likely be a complex sentence that combines 2 of them using a word like since or while. This creates a rhetorical flow that is more pleasing to the academic ear. The fifth pillar is coordination versus subordination. This tests your ability to choose the correct glue for your clauses. Coordination uses fanbys for and, nor, but, or, yet so. These are used to connect 2 ideas of equal importance. Subordination uses words like because, although, if, since, while, and unless. These are used when one idea is secondary to the other. The trap here is the logical clash. If you use and, coordination when you should use although, subordination, you have a syntax error. Example, the technology is expensive, and it is very efficient. This is a weak sentence. These 2 ideas are in contrast. The expense is a negative, and the efficiency is a positive. The syntactically superior version uses subordination to show that contrast. Although the technology is expensive, it is very efficient. This version tells the reader that the efficiency is the main point despite the cost. On the accuplacer, you must choose the structure that matches the logical relationship between the ideas. The 6th pillar involves sentence boundaries, which include fragments and run-ons. While these are often categorized as grammar, they are fundamentally issues of syntax, of where a sentence begins and ends. A fragment is an incomplete sentence masquerading as a whole one. Because the weather was bad. That is a fragment. It's just a dependent clause. It needs an independent clause to lean on. A run-on, or comma splice, occurs when 2 independent sentences are joined incorrectly. The mail is heavy, I am tired. This is a comma splice. A comma is not strong enough to hold 2 whole sentences together. To fix a comma splice, you have 3 syntactical options. Option 1, use a period. The mail is heavy, I am tired. Option 2, use a semicolon. The mail is heavy, I am tired. Option 3, use a comma and a conjunction. The mail is heavy and I am tired. On the test, if you see a comma separating 2 complete thoughts, it is an error. Look for the semicolon or the conjunction. The semicolon is a favorite of the accuplacer because it is a sophisticated syntactical tool. The 7th pillar is inversion for emphasis. In standard English, we use subject-verb-object. The mountains stood in the distance. But sometimes a writer will invert this. In the distance stood the mountains. This is a stylistic choice that shifts the focus of the sentence. You might see a question that asks which choice most effectively emphasizes the location. In that case, the inverted sentence, starting with in the distance, is the correct answer. Syntax can be used to control, what the reader notices first. The eighth pillar is the appositive phrase. An appositive is a noun or noun phrase that renames another noun right next to it. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman to receive a medical degree in the United States, was a pioneer in her field. The phrase, the first woman to receive a medical degree in the United States, is the appositive. Syntactically, this is an efficient construction. It allows the writer to pack a huge amount of information into a single sentence without starting a new one. On the test, if you are asked to combine two sentences where one is just a definition of the person in the other, use an appositive. It is always more concise and professional. The ninth pillar is relative clauses. These are clauses starting with who, whom, whose, which, or that. The artifacts, which were discovered in 1922, are now on display. The trap here is punctuation of relative clauses. If the information is non-essential, extra info, it must have commas. If it is essential, necessary to identify. The noun, it has no commas. Non-essential, my mother, who is a doctor, is home. You only have one mother, so who is a doctor is just extra info. Use commas. Essential, the doctor who treated me is home. You are identifying which doctor, no commas. This is a high-level syntax rule that can help you distinguish between two, almost identical answer choices. How do you tackle syntax questions on Tuesday? You must use the weight test. As you read an answer choice, ask yourself, where is the heaviest part of this sentence? The heaviest part, the most important information, should usually be in the independent clause, the part that can stand alone. If a sentence says, while the company was losing money, it decided to hire a new CEO. The heavy part is the hiring of the CEO. If it says, the company hired a new CEO, although it was losing money. The heavy part is still the hiring, but the losing money is now a secondary afterthought. Matching the syntactic weight to the author's purpose is the secret to a top-tier score. As you finish this neighborhood on your route, think of syntax as the sorting of your mail. You don't just throw all the letters in a pile. You organize them by street, then by house number, then by name. A simple sentence is a single letter. A compound sentence is two letters bundled for the same house. A relative clause is the apartment number that gives more specific information. If you get the order wrong, the mail doesn't get delivered correctly. In writing, if you get the syntax wrong, the meaning doesn't get delivered correctly. To summarize the essential strategies for Module ACC WR 3.4. First, favor subordination, using words like although or because, over simple coordination, using and to show logical hierarchy. Second, ensure parallel structure in all lists and comparisons. Keep the grammatical form consistent. Third, watch for dangling modifiers. Ensure the word or phrase at the start of the sentence correctly describes the noun that immediately follows it. Fourth, use appositives to combine sentences efficiently and eliminate redundancy. Fifth, identify and fix comma splices by using semicolons or periods. Sixth, use relative clauses, who, which, that to pack detail into a sentence, paying close attention to whether they need commas. Seventh, vary your sentence structure to avoid a choppy or monotonous rhythm. Eighth, use syntactic weight to ensure the most important idea is in the main, independent clause. Ninth, avoid excessive wordiness by using participial phrases, starting with ing or ed words to tuck information into a sentence. By mastering syntax, you are demonstrating that you are a master builder of language. You aren't just following rules, you are using the structure of the sentence to influence how the reader thinks and feels. This level of control is what characterizes high-scoring students and will make you stand out in your academic career at Hudson Valley. This concludes our deep dive into Module ACC WR 3.4. You are now moving from the style of writing into the mechanics and boundaries of the sentence. When you are ready to focus on the hard rules of where sentences begin and end, Our next target is Module ACC WR 4.1, Sentence Boundaries. Just say the word next when you are ready to proceed.